And first I asked her why she had sex with Trump. Listen to that, and then listen to what she says after that, and then we're going to talk about the trial, because it's quite at variance of what she said to me in 2018. Why did you Donald Trump?
I have no idea.
Okay, but you say it's not a Me Too case.
It is not a Me Too case. I mean, I wasn't assaulted. I wasn't attacked or raped or coerced or blackmailed. They tried to shove me in the Me Too box to further their own agenda. And first of all, I didn't want any part of that because it's not the truth, and I'm not a victim in that regard.
That's not what she's saying now. She's talking about he was bigger and blocking the way. It's all the Me Too buzzwords. She said there was a power imbalance of power, for sure. My hands were shaking so hard. She said she blacked out. Blacked out? She's a porn star. I don't think sex...
That doesn't mean she's been subjected to the likes of Donald Trump. I might black out too.
Do you really think she blacked out? I mean, a porn star is used to having sex with people she does not know. That's the job. It's kind of like Stormy Bob Stormy.
Welcome back to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio and powered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody. You might as well buy them from us and help fund the movement, help support the movement. We believe in the freedom of movement, and that's exactly what the establishment wants to take from you now. I'm your host, Royce White, here in the belly of the beast, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this is episode 194. The day is May 13th, year of our Lord, 2024. Minnesota GOP convention coming up this week, starting Thursday at State Central Committee. Friday, Saturday. Saturday will be the Senate candidate endorsement process. I hope to have all of your support in that Senate candidate endorsement. I know we already have a ton of support and more pouring in every day, so we appreciate it. We appreciate your support. We hope that you, if you're watching this show, you're more than familiar enough with me and the things that I believe in, the things that I stand for, and the things that I'll surely stand for if I can be successful in unseating Amy Klobuchar this fall. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, and I wouldn't even say it's bad news. Actually, let's rephrase it. I think it's good news. I think the cold open I played there with Stormy Daniels and Bill Maher making the walk across the Rubicon, at least in some small manner, to point out the inconsistency and contradiction of Stormy Daniels and this witch hunt trial that's going on there with Donald Trump. This is actually a good thing. It's a good thing. The bad news is, and I hate to be the one who says I told you so, but I told you so. I mean, I told you this was going to be the issue. I told you this was going to be the thing. This is going to be the thing from here on out. This is the real cultural divide. We can talk about cultural wedge issues all we want, and we can look at the three, the sort of three-headed Cerberus of the Democrat movement, the Democrat Party and the Democrat platform. The three-headed Cerberus is BLM, the LGBTQ, and Me Too. Or let's say women's rights, the Time's Up movement, BLM, and the LGBTQ. That's the three-headed Cerberus. These are the cultural wedge issues they're going to play. But really and truly, when it all shakes out, the go-to move is going to be the divide between men and women. Why? Because it's the most natural divide. And although the Democrats don't want to talk about nature, they can't stomach to talk about the nature of the world, the natural way, God's natural order. They can't stomach to talk about nature anymore. You can't say that women are the only ones who can get pregnant. You can't define a woman. But then we can define a woman when it comes time to call Donald Trump a misogynist. I mean, I get it. I don't know how what's sad to me is that the American people have been systematically dumbed down so effectively that the dumbing down of the American public has been so systematically effective that a good portion of people actually will pick up the Washington Post or the New York Times or tune into CNN or MSNBC or whatever other publication or outlet and believe this. I mean, it's lunacy. Well, here we have Bill Maher, who by every stretch of the imagination is a typical talking head of the mainstream media industrial complex, and even he, even he can't sit by and let this farce go. Even he can't stomach to watch what Stormy Daniels has done and what this prosecution or what this trial has produced so far when it comes to Donald Trump and this hush money case. But I told you this was going to be the issue. And for Stormy Daniels to change her story the way that she did, so bad. I mean, it's so blatant that even Bill Maher, who is as big of a Donald Trump detractor as you could possibly find out there, and pretty good at doing it too. I mean, of all the Democrats and liberals, there's a reason why the great Steve Bannon went on the show with Bill Maher, because at least Bill Maher has it in him to ask certain questions. The end result with all of these people is usually the same, but at least he has the personal integrity to ask a few objective questions, which doesn't say much for him, and it doesn't say much for our media in this country, which in a way really vindicates Donald Trump and what I thought was the hallmark, one of the hallmarks of his presidency was to question the mainstream media writ large and the impact that it's had on our country. But even Bill Maher can't stomach what Stormy Daniels has done or what she's doing or what they're attempting to use her to do. And I can't either. But it's not just her, and it's not just Donald Trump. It's going to be you. It's going to be in your homes. It's going to be in the family court. It's going to be in divorce court. It's going to be any man who rises up now to try and challenge the status quo. There'll be some woman who accuses him of something that he either didn't do or extremely embellishes or oversells it. And I'm not saying that women aren't actually abused. Of course, I would never say that's ridiculous. Of course, there are maniacs out there. There are criminals out there. There are psychopaths out there. There are people out there who really enjoy hurting women. Donald Trump doesn't strike me as one of them. And I'm not saying I couldn't be fooled. People can fool you. But all accounts by her own admission in the past say differently. And I love that Bill Maher brought up the very taboo but necessary point of her profession. I mean, it's so funny to watch the mainstream media, watch the liberals, watch the Democrats, watch the leftists, watch these ideologues come to the podium in the public square and think that we're so stupid we can't even keep a congruent line of thought between the point they just made and the point they're now making. And the point that they've just made about Donald Trump for, let's say, the last 8 years, the point they've continuously tried to make is about his past. Okay, you can bring up Donald Trump's past, you can bring up a tweet, you can bring up what he said here or there, but we can't bring up Stormy Daniels' profession because it's what? It's immaterial, it's not relevant? Of course it's relevant. We're talking about a potential sexual encounter with a woman who has a history of sexual encounters, whether they be professional or personal. But the reality is when it comes to porn, which has been admitted a number of times by people who are in the porn industry, that the lines often get blurred between what's personal and what's professional. Because sex, although we've created a weird culture where we don't want to admit it, sex, even professionally, is such a intimate and personal thing, it's hard not to have some personal nature in those types of encounters. I mean, it just gets tough. And the women who do, they often complain later on that doing so, that creating a transactional sort of dynamic to their to sex or to their romantic life or their professional work, creating a strictly transactional dynamic to sexual encounters was detrimental to their mental health, detrimental to their spiritual health, detrimental to their physical health, mind, body, and spirit. And so I come back to it again when you really look at the edifice of what they're doing with Stormy Daniels, just parading her up there, knowing that, I don't know, maybe she needs money, maybe she's been bought off by somebody. Obviously, she wrote a book and she's become a fixture of the Donald Trump saga. They're willing to throw her out there and make her look as uncredible and dishonest and disingenuous. And for what? And to what end? Just to hang Donald Trump up in some trial so you can drain him of his resources and coffers to run for president? I mean, look what they're willing to do to a woman. Look what the prosecution is willing to do to a woman to achieve their goals. The end justifies the means. They're willing to run this woman through the ringer. And you could say, oh, well, she agreed to do it, or she was subpoenaed, or what. They didn't have to do that. First of all, I don't even see this entire indictment in this particular case as being legitimate. I just don't. But Stormy Daniels' testimony is really irrelevant to the whole matter, in my opinion. It really is. All it does is make Donald Trump look more credible, in my opinion. It really does. Minus what you think morally or personally or from a Christian standpoint, or, it was married or it wasn't married or whatever, minus all of that. Donald Trump seemingly told the truth about the entire encounter with Stormy up until this point, and she on a number of occasions corroborated his story. And now she's going back on it in the 12th hour when the stakes are the highest and he stands to lose the most. And we're supposed to be fooled by this? And when I say I'm the bearer of bad news, the bad news that I bring is you are supposed to be fooled by this, 100%. You are 100% supposed to be so caught up in this sort of Trump derangement syndrome. You're supposed to be so caught up in it that you can't make out what's right in front of your eyes. Don't believe your lying eyes. 1 + 1 is 3. There is no such thing as a woman or a man. There is no such thing as pornography. There is no such thing as a woman saying that she was so scared she almost blacked out. And then they had the audacity to bring this effeminate guy on as a panel host who was gonna make a joke. The whole thing is disgusting, really. I mean, I respect Bill Maher for having said, hey, listen, the stories that were told on the show and what's being said in the courtroom is completely inconsistent. I respect him for saying it. I really do. But the whole thing being kind of a joke and a comedy, it's disgusting. Again, it reflects their real lack of care about the well-being, their real lack of care about the well-being for the woman involved in this situation, who they're talking. They don't care. They don't care about how Stormy looks. When they make fun of Donald Trump, they're really making fun of Stormy too. And that's what's so sad about it for most of these women who do these things where they go out in the public and they try and smear these men for whatever they get out of it. Whether it's vengeance, whether it's money, whether it's vendetta, whatever it is, whatever they get out of it, you just end up being smeared yourself. They don't care about you. It's like I tell women all the time about the family court system. You think the family court system cares to make you a single mother, to perpetuate a culture, an American culture of single motherhood? They don't care. They don't care. They don't care if your child grows up with it's better for them. The entire system. When they say the whole system is guilty, I don't think they get how guilty it really is. The entire system is built off of a debt and death culture. You're a single mother, you're going to have more debt. You're a child who grows up without the stability of two balanced and healthy parents, you're probably going to be in debt. You're a father who gets raked over the coals by the American anti-family court system. You probably see an early death if they don't throw you in jail, and you're certainly going to end up in debt. I mean, do we not understand that this is the way that they're just playing us? And right now they're playing Stormy Daniels, and what's scary is they really think they're playing you. And of course it's relevant, her history in the porn industry. And Bill Maher made a perfectly good point. You mean to tell me you were so afraid of Donald Trump that you blacked out? You're used to being in front of the camera. You're used to being in front of strange men. You're used to being in even hardcore sexual. You're used to that. That's a part of the business. That's a part of the game. And that doesn't mean that a porn star can't be sexually assaulted or abused or raped or any of that. Of course, it doesn't mean that. But you got to look at the totality of evidence, and that's the real point here. The point isn't about us judging Stormy Daniels versus the porn industry or Donald Trump or who's more believable and what Bill Maher thinks. What we're really talking about here is the loss of fundamental American ideas and values like the presumption of innocence, or let's even say the threshold of probable cause and guilty verdict. There's no way you can reach a guilty verdict in this case. So why is it reasonable that prosecutors are even able to bring these types? I mean, it's become so sport. The American justice system has become so sport-like. It's disgusting. That's what's undermining democracy in this country. It's not people talking about Christianity. That has the potential to undermine democracy as well. But right now, today, that's not what's undermining Christianity. That's not what's undermining democracy in this country. It's not Christians, hard-working class, everyday Christians undermining democracy. It's the use of the justice system for political means, for political agenda. That is the number one thing undermining democracy in this country, if not an even or very close second. The special interest lobby money that's involved in politics writ large. But the two of them go about what and what. And you see a lot of crossover. You'll see a lot of crossover from the legal system and the justice system that's now been weaponized, and the money and the special interest lobby groups who have a vice grip on American politics. And the media as a perfect conduit between the two. Look at George Soros, dumps however many millions of dollars into, helping district attorneys all over the country. I mean, that's political. And I get it. Politics is politics. And that's the part we have to get. They're playing politics. They're doing politics. They don't believe in the separation of church and state. And they have a church. It's the anti-church church. They have a church. They have an ideology. They have a religion. Their religion they can claim is secular humanism or it's science, when they tell you that ivermectin is horse tranquilizer, a horse dewormer. When they tell you that ivermectin is horse paste, right? Science, believe the science, okay? Believe Fauci, okay? Well, we shouldn't have believed Fauci. The people who took ivermectin, now it seems were right. The people who didn't believe Dr. Fauci was telling the whole truth, now they've been proven to be right. And so this religion, I mean, as far as religions go, this religion's already fallen out through the bottom, right? But they have religion. The LGBTQ movement is a part of that religion. And you got to ask yourself, again, as a mental health advocate, which I've been since my earliest days on the public stage, you got to ask yourself, why are people so hell-bent on promoting, advocating, supporting a lifestyle that has proven to be at least correlated to very, very severe mental illness statistics? The mental illness statistics in the LGBTQ community are worse than maybe any other demographic in the country. But you care about them. I mean, how long are people out there going to keep allowing this government, this system, this propaganda machine to tell them they care about their well-being and prosperity when everything they do says the contrary? And it's the LGBTQ, and it's the women's movement, the women's rights and Time's Up movement, but it's also the black community too. Now, the black community, it seems, is getting hip to it quicker than the other two. And that doesn't shock me because really the black community was into it on a house of cards to begin with. And so we always in the black community have kind of talked about not trusting the government. Black people aren't typically a pro-government demographic. They get roped into being pro-government because I think we separate government as in being policing or law enforcement or the military or the intelligence apparatus or other other institutions that traditionally in our community have been tied to very questionable methods, procedures, and in some cases assassinations. Vis-a-vis Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, so on and so forth. So, there's always been big question about law enforcement or about government, but we sort of detach government from the law enforcement side of things, from the social programs and welfare side of things, but it's one government. It really is one government. I mean, it's just, but black people understand that, and that's why you see, as I've said before, now is the time to strike. And I say this as a message to Republicans all across the country. If you're having trouble with your messaging, if you're having trouble with figuring out the strategy going forward in this country for this election in 2024, if you're having trouble, look no further. It's very simple. What is the most dramatic shift in this election cycle's polling demographics versus any other time in Donald Trump's run? His advance with black men. It's not even close. And it's not that he didn't do well with black men before, I mean, relatively, but the bigger picture is that there has never been a Republican presidential candidate in my 33 years of living that has polled ahead of a Democrat presidential candidate with black men. It's never happened. It has not happened in 30 years, in 3 decades. There has not been a Republican presidential candidate that is polled ahead of Democrats with black men. That's a signal. And you all better thank Steve Bannon. You all better thank Steve Bannon for giving you, fighting to give you that strategy. The gift that keeps on giving, the great Steve Bannon. I messaged him the other day and I said, you know, they can try and do what they want to you. You've already won. The dam is already broken. The levee is already broken. The water's rushing through. You don't believe me? Let me help you. Rasmussen had a poll. And I mean, it's staggering. It really is staggering. Rasmussen's reports, 74% say the border situation is a crisis. 74% say see the border situation as an invasion. 71% approve of more border wall construction. 63% say border security is a vital national security interest. 54% say Trump is right about the wall. And all of these are black voters. So they kind of lead you on, right? And then they did a great job. I mean, I really, really think this is one of the most important and pivotal moments in this election. It's like this poll right here needs to be enshrined all throughout the GOP, all across the country. Get your head on straight about where this country is headed and who's at the forefront of it. The American nationalist populist movement, the MAGA extremists that you all shun and say, ooh, these people are crazy. Okay, some are, but being crazy isn't, it isn't few and far between. A lot of people are crazy, okay? A lot of the stuff people believe is crazy. So, crazy some may be. No more crazy than Herman Kahn. I think what Herman Kahn said was crazy. Some of you don't even know who Herman Kahn is. But I think the stuff Herman Kahn said was crazy as scientifically credentialed as he was. I think some of the stuff he said was crazy. I think wanting to have a country with a border doesn't seem that crazy. Actually, it pales in comparison. Actually, it's common sense compared to some of the stuff Herman Kahn said. I digress, but the point is that this poll is so significant. It's hard to even although it deals with statistics and numbers, it really is hard to even quantify the shift that it represents. It represents a shift that I haven't seen in my lifetime. And they did a great job of leading the poll on. They're giving you all of these numbers, and the first thing you're thinking are, well, it must be a Republican poll. No, it's not a Republican poll. This is a poll of black voters. Black voters have had enough with the Democrat Party. They've had enough with Democrat politics and policy. They've had enough with the Democrat plantation. They're leaving. They're out. And guess what? The Democrats knew it was coming. They knew it was coming. They knew it was coming. This immigration, this illegal immigrant invasion, let's call it what it is. This invasion is not by accident. It's not by accident. There's no way you can get me to believe that it's by accident. It's not by accident. They knew they had a problem on their hands. They knew there was a ticking time bomb. They knew that there was there was a time horizon where people were going to figure out the scam that has held together the Democrat power base since the civil rights movement. They knew it. So they had to try and ratchet up the fear. They had to ratchet up the racial division through BLM and all of this stuff so that they could have a stopgap until they could flood the country with 15 million new people. 15 million. And the scariest part about it is they didn't bring 15 million new people in to be registered voters. They didn't. They don't know how these people are going to vote. They don't know if they'll even vote. They can't even track these people to make sure they vote. You think they're going to go? You think they're going to go? You think they're going to go door to door? Go door to door where? Go door to door where? How do you keep track of these people? Oh, you put them on the government payroll, so you know exactly where to send the check. And if you send the check, that's where the food source is. That's where the lifeline is, and then we can be sure that those people will be there. It's like selling them crack. Not hard to figure out where a crackhead is going to be. He's going to be where he can find crack. It's simple. He's going to be where he can get what he needs. That's just simple. That's the name of the game. And they're creating that sort of dependency. First, they did with black people, and we didn't catch on quick enough. Now we are. Maybe too late. We'll see. You got a chance. You got a chance to swing this country one final time before they let another 15 million immigrants in, and you're obsolete. And when you become obsolete, you watch how fast the crime bill Joe Biden's and the super predator Hillary Clinton's are going to throw your ass in prison. I'll say it again for all you black folks out there. You have one final election to swing this country back in a direction that shrinks a grandiose, oversized government. You have one more election to try and swing this country back in the right direction towards individual freedom. If you do not, they will let another 15 million immigrants in this country, and then you'll be obsolete. And when you're obsolete, you watch how fast crime bill Joe Biden and super predator Hillary Clinton will throw your black ass in prison. Now, I know I've gotten off the beaten path here, but back to my point, there's a number of ways that these policies, these politics, these sort of party platforms, this propaganda has been built up in the mind of the American people. There's a number of ways. Fear, obviously, is the go-to, always the go-to. You can get somebody scared of something, somebody scared of something, you can predict their behavior. Their behavior becomes very predictable. Fear, but also vanity, it's ego, pride, sort of what they call narcissism. And I think we do have a sort of civilization-wide narcissism that's been growing since the Industrial Revolution. Because when you no longer have to survive, when you no longer have to spend your time and energy surviving, and you get to philosophize, easy to get wrapped up and consumed in yourself. Especially if you take God out of the equation. Nothing above you. But before I go, I'm gonna play this clip of these two women I came across on social media doing some weird Kundalini ritual. And I talk about it all, these globalists, posh, yuppie, omnisexual, cosmopolitan, sort of anti-Christian people. And I just happened to come across this video of these two women doing this strange Kundalini ritual, and the first thing I did was laugh. I'm gonna be transparent. Me and my friends like AJ and Mr. Penn, Professor Penn, and others as well. We laughed to keep from crying, but I saw it, and it's funny that they actually seem to be taking it really serious. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who take it really serious, evidently by us giving up Christianity and replacing it with numerology and spiritualism and all of this talk about extraterrestrial aliens. I'm not saying there aren't aliens or extraterrestrials. What I'm saying is we've sort of supplemented aliens and extraterrestrial scientific, woo-woo for any real faith. And I don't think that's by accident. It's easy to be out there in woo-wooville. It's easy to talk about, the significance of the number 13 or every time you look at I can't tell you how many people I see now, they're posting the time. I looked at the clock again and it was 1, 2, 3, 4. So significant. Add the numbers up. What does it mean? It's just, yeah, get out of here. just go on. But these people are serious. And it's funny, I posted the video, and right away you got a couple of your liberal detractors that always pop up in your feed. It's funny, a lot of these conservatives and America Firsters never see when I post things. My posts are hidden, but the liberals certainly are notified when us America Firsters post anything. They're notified right away. We'll talk about Krasenstein, the two Krasenstein twins, I think their names are, whatever. We'll talk about them on Wednesday. I'll show the video of him admitting that he's getting paid to be an influencer. Ain't nobody paying me. But I'll show you a video saying that he's getting paid to say the stuff he says. But that's not my point. My point is I posted the video and some liberal jumped in and goes, oh, you found two weird liberals and you act like it counts for all liberals. No, I'm not acting like that at all. I know that most liberals aren't doing Kundalini. I know that most liberals aren't involved in this sort of strange spiritual Buddhist, let's go to Bali and meditate in the hills for 3 weeks because we're posh, yuppie, sort of narcissistic, creeps who don't have to worry about the hardship of everyday working class citizens. And so we treat them like they're deplorables, right? I know that's not the case. Everybody's not like that. Everybody who's liberal isn't like that. People who vote Democrat aren't traditionally like that. Black people who vote Democrat have never been like that. They never practiced Kundalini. Until more recently, when you have all of these black influencers from the hip-hop community or the high fashion art community coming back into the community and promoting, proselytizing all of these people with this, strange ideology. So I'm not saying that all Democrats or liberals or people are involved in this, but you are following those people. See, because if you don't know the thought leaders that meet there in Davos, Switzerland, at the World Economic Forum and these other places, they're neck deep. They're neck deep in Kundalini rituals. They're neck deep in satanic rituals. They're neck deep. And look at the people that Biden put on his staff. Look at the guy who put in as what is he was an engineer of some thermonuclear program or something like that, and he was into some weird puppy cosplay where they put latex on and shave their heads and do lipstick and they spank each other or paddle each other or whatever they're into. It's weird. It's just weird. Where I'm from, we didn't follow people like that. We didn't hang with people like that. We barely even knew people like that, and we certainly weren't gonna let them tell us how we should live our lives. Something's changed. Something's changed, and some people are catching on. I can't tell you how many black people I know that I talk to that are catching on. They're catching on. They're going, wait a second. You guys pulled the mask off for this whole agenda way too quick. Way too quick. But, people who are imprudent, people who are people who are imprudent would pull the mask off of the thing too quick. They're imprudent. They don't have any temperance. No temperance, right? So, of course, what the Democrats should have done, what the liberals should have done is they should have slowly but surely kind of integrated silently. They should have silently integrated the LGBTQ thing into the agenda. They should have silently tried. They couldn't do it. They didn't have the temperance to do it. They had to go loud with it. They had to throw it in your face. They had to make you feel like you were smaller than them because it's a reflection of their own self-doubt. It's a reflection of their own self-hatred. It's a reflection of their own lack of goodness. So, of course, they had to gloat about it. You know, the idea that misery loves company, these people are miserable, and they thought by throwing it in your face, they're going to make you miserable too. That's the real agenda. That's the end game. They want to drag you into misery. Because for them, they don't have the backbone to stand up to Satan or the devil, or to their own impulses. They don't have the backbone to stand up to other hordes of liberals, you know, other mob rule type ideas or discussions. They don't have the backbone to stand up and have an original novel thought in those situations. They don't have that. So they're trying to pull you into and they think that, you know, you're going to act the same with the same way they act. That's why they're so offended when you stand up and say, wait a second, what? What did you say? Oh, heck no. I'm trying to watch my profanity. Hell, is hell profanity? Fuck it. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no, we're not going for what? What did you say? You telling me men can get pregnant? I can't tell you how many black people laugh at the idea that men can get pregnant. I mean, you can find a Jada Pinkett who will give you some politically correct, posh Hollywood answer, you know, but she's as freaky and weird as they come. You know, you can find any number of, I was watching the other day. It's just funny how black culture is such a thermometer for the movement of American culture. I was watching the other day one of my all-time favorite black action comedies, Low Down Dirty Shame with Keenan Ivory Wayans. And Low Down Dirty Shame is kind of, let's say, Keenan Ivory Wayans play on Shaft, right? Because, you know, when you were a black man, I guess in the 70s, so I'm told, I wasn't alive, but I can look back at the time period and look at the culture and understand what was happening. You either wanted to be Superfly or you wanted to be Shaft, right? I mean, those were two very, very important cultural icons in black culture. And so, you know, Keenan Ivory Wayans kind of did his own rendition of a Shaft type of character who was a detective involved. It was a law enforcement officer who stepped away from, retired, wasn't actually officially on the force anymore, but still worked doing investigative work. And, you know, it's a badass dude. He's a badass dude in the movie. He really was. You know, but it's a good movie. But it was also a comedy. It was funny, you know. And if you don't know, the Wayans are funny people. I mean, one of the most talented families in American history. Really, they are. If you don't understand who found Jim Carrey, the reason you know Jim Carrey is because of the Wayans family. And Jim Carrey might be one of the best, you know, comedians of all time. Definitely up there. But anyway, the movie Low Down Dirty Shame is great. And Jada Pinkett is one of the main characters in the movie. And I love the movie. And I like Jada Pinkett in the movie. She played a character named Peaches. And, you know, it's funny. In the movie, she had a roommate who was gay, but he was just gay, you know. And he was kind of cross-dressing, and there was this scene at this gay nightclub, and Keenan Ivory Wayans was kind of the black, you know, kind of macho cop sort of, you know, figure in the movie who was looking at the friend and is like, I don't mess with that gay stuff, dude. Keep that over there. You know what I'm saying? And I just thought about how that would get you canceled today. You couldn't even make Low Down Dirty Shame today without the LGBTQ coming after you. This is a fixture of black American history, black American cinematic history. Everybody in the black community has seen a low down dirty shame. Everybody knows Peaches. Jada Pinkett is Peaches. Now you can't even say that that women are the only ones who can get pregnant. It's lunacy. And my point in reiterating is that the black community sees it. They're figuring it out. Because the Democrats and the liberals, they pushed too far. They didn't have any temperance, and therefore they played their hand and they pulled the mask up way too early. And when you pull the mask up way too early, when you pull the curtain too early, you'll see it. You go to a play, if you've ever been at a play, and they start to pull that curtain, and the people behind aren't ready or they don't realize it, everybody starts to panic. Wait a minute, they can see us, right? Um, and then they got to do desperate things in order to make up for that. And that's what we should be worried about now. That's why this election is so important, because the avalanche has already begun. Like I said, the levee's broken. The dam is cracked. The levee is broken. The water is flooding out. The house of cards that the Democrats have built with propaganda is crumbling right before our very eyes. It's falling apart right before our very eyes. The question is now, what will they have to resort to as damage control? And every last one of you out there, black, white, yellow, green, every last one of you out there should be direly concerned about what damage control these people are going to have to resort to now. Because there's no stopping. Black men, after 6 years of them telling us that Republicans are racist, that the Republicans are nothing more than fascists or white supremacists or whatever, the KKK or whatever other racial pejorative they could. After all of that, after 6-7 years of nonstop propaganda from the mainstream media, from white people, I might add, like I played Malcolm the last episode or 2 episodes ago for a reason, because Malcolm was very clear about this white liberal thing, and he was saying it back then in the 60s. And although they want to make it seem like his radical Islamic beliefs are why he wasn't as accepted in the mainstream as a person like Martin Luther King, looking back in retrospect, it was that white liberal finger on the pulse, which was probably the real reason he wasn't accepted in the mainstream like Martin Luther King was. But those words, those moments in his speeches have aged the best out of all the civil rights leaders. White liberals fed us propaganda about racism nonstop. I mean, they didn't spare a dime. They spared no expense to try and drive home to black people that if you don't vote Democrat, the racists will come and get you. And through it all, black men have stood up now and said, we're not going for it. Sorry. We don't believe you. We don't believe you. The black male support of Donald Trump isn't even such an affirmation of Donald Trump. I mean, it is in a way, because, and I said this to somebody the other day, there's a sort of brashness, there's a sort of uncouth, unkept, sort of aggressive nature to black culture in America. If you deny that or you don't think that's true, you're probably fronting. I mean, let's talk like we talk when the white folks aren't around. Okay, we get after it. We don't really hold our tongues. We don't really hold any punches. At least in the neighborhood I came from, and I know many other neighborhoods and communities across the country, because I had the good benefit of playing basketball and coming together in a community of basketball with young black men from all across this country. So I'm familiar with what it's like growing up in Baltimore. I'm familiar with what it's like growing up down there in Florida. I'm familiar with what it's like growing up in Texas or Louisiana or California or Arizona or Chicago or Kansas City and Missouri. I'm familiar with black communities all across the country because I had a sample size as a basketball player growing up. And we have a sort of aggressive brashness to our culture. And that's what we need now. And that's why a lot of young black men especially, but black men all across the country are starting to resonate with Donald Trump. Not only resonate with Donald Trump and the way he talks or the way he goes about it, but also resonate with the attacks that are taking place with these witch hunt trials. A lot of black men feel like they've been witch hunted by a legal system that has for a long, long time started to lean liberal. I mean, the liberal takeover of the legal industry, the legal field, the lawyers, the liberal lean in the judicial system isn't new. It's at least 30 years. It's at least been going on for 30 years, if not more, much more. The liberals and the leftists, as the great Professor Penn testifies in his own familial history and of his own parents and what he experienced and saw firsthand, the communists and the leftists started going into the universities right after the civil rights movement. Hell, right after World War II. When the American public rejected communism as a whole and said, we like capitalism better because economic mobility is baked into the American dream. And all of us, no matter what we believe, we like the idea that we could rise up in society with nothing more than our own creativity and determination. We liked that. So we voted for capitalism when it was a referendum on capitalism or communism. We went with capitalism as a country. And the communist response to that was, okay, you got it. You got us this time, but we're not done playing yet. We're going to go into the universities and let's see how it shakes out 30 years from now. And they laid a 30-year plan. And they are coming to they're coming to the climactic scene of that 30-year plan. Now, the problem is, as is often the problem with most humans and in most human error, they think too much of themselves, or they think too little of others, either way. And in thinking too much of themselves or thinking too little of others, what they've convinced themselves of is that black people would continue to be the linchpin of their political agenda. Because at the end of the day, you know, they could say what they want. When they were fighting for civil rights, when they were fighting for all of these human rights issues, there was a small little piece that had their own designs, that had their own agenda. There was a small cohort within the movement that had their own plans, and those people never cared about black people because they don't care about any people. They're anti-human. They're anti-human. They can say they're secular humanists, but there's nothing humanist about them. They care about power, and they care about using human beings to execute their agendas. They just as soon kill a bunch of human beings as you know, and massage them on the head and tell them how pretty their hair is. They just as soon kill you if they thought that it would serve their interests. No honor amongst thieves. But black people are saying right now in this country, and it didn't take much. I said that last week. It honestly did not take much. It took a few people like Steve Bannon. It took a few people like, you know, let's say Candace Owens. It took a few people like a Jason Whitlock, like a Royce White, like a Donald Trump. Remember when Donald Trump said, you know, you helped build this country, and you're just now starting to get credit for that. And then he gave all that money to the HBCUs. Now, I actually would have contested giving the money to the HBCUs because I know that the HBCUs, many of the HBCUs are already captured by the LGBTQ ideology. This is one of those places where the smart communists and Marxists went to try and change the let's say, intellectual, posh, upper middle class of the black community the same way that they did in the white community. We're going into the universities. Well, they didn't stop at American public universities. They didn't stop at the University of Minnesota or the University of Wisconsin or Yale or Harvard. They kept on going, and they're feeding the ideology right down into the HBCUs as well, which is why you go to the HBCUs and it's a haven. It's a haven of LGBTQ propaganda. And this is where you will find black folks in the South, mind you, okay? Black folks who came up with grandmas that didn't play about Jesus Christ, okay? You'll find these black folks doing Kundalini, saying that Christianity is racist. Not in front of their grandma, though. They won't say it in front of their grandmama. But you get them out there at the bar, you know, at happy hour, you know, or, you know, right before the club, you know, the pregame. You get them in the pregame with a couple of tequilas, and they'll be talking all about Kundalini and spiritual awareness and chakras and all a bunch of shit they don't know nothing about. Don't know the first thing about getting their goddamn philosophy, from, you know, memes, from, you know, Instagram. They're getting their philosophy from Satanists. And goddamn them. Please. And I say that, I don't say that jokingly, and I probably shouldn't say that. But honestly, I said to somebody the other day, I had a delegate call me and ask me about my Christian views. And, he asked me a couple of questions. I kind of got irritated. But anyway, I told him, I said, every knee will bow and every tongue will confess, as the scripture says. And in that fulfillment of prophecy, where every tongue bows and where every knee bows and every tongue confesses, that is a form of damnation for those who have followed Satan. That is a sort of consequence for those who have followed Satan. It's not a sort of consequence; it's a steep consequence. Now, I don't want to get too spiritual about the matter. I just can't believe it. I mean, I just can't believe that some of you out there are really buying this sort of I don't even know what to call it, but a lie. Some of you out there are buying the lie still, but too many of us are leaving, and you want to try and shame us. I mean, I see it all the time. You want to shame us. Well, we don't feel ashamed. I'm certainly not ashamed. I could care less. I really could. I could care less. All you black bourgeoisie sellouts, you just got to deal with the reality. You got to sit there and take note now. Remember, write the names down. Don't worry. We're not going to do the witch hunt thing that you're doing. When we take the country back, we're not going to do the witch hunt thing that you're doing, because there's no sacred honor in that. There's no sacred honor. So we're not going to come round you up. That would be dishonorable. But we are going to post your face all over the wall. We are going to post your face right up there on the wall and let everybody remember what it is that you said, and give you the opportunity to repent, and give you the opportunity to change your mind, give you the opportunity to change where you were, where you are then. All the Jada Pinkett's and all the other mouthpieces that tell you should vote Democrat, because if you don't, the white man will get you. Who tell you should vote Democrat, because if you don't, there'll be no more democracy. Make the government bigger. Make the government bigger. That's going to give you, the individual citizen, more power. These things don't add up. They just don't add up. 1 + 1 is 2. Math is universal. 1 + 1 is always 2. 1 + 1 can never be 3. When you add more government to a really big government, you only get a much bigger government. When you get a much bigger government, you only get an institution that doesn't necessarily have to respect or honor your rights. And all you black folks out there better not act like you don't understand what I'm saying. You know exactly what I'm saying. But hey, remember, it's just me, the light-skinned guy. Maybe I'm not black enough. But you can't come say that in the neighborhood. I guarantee you that. You can't come say it to my face, because you know better. Because if you're actually black and you came up in a black community, you know there's certain shit you just don't say. I mean, I go back to my episode last Monday, but I'm not going to go revisit that. But I'll say it again now. You know, if you really came from a black community and you still really live by the sort of standards of rules of etiquette and the way to behave and carry yourself that your grandparents and that generation instilled in you, you know there's certain shit that you just don't do, and there's certain shit you just don't say. If you believe for 1 second that a bigger government makes you more powerful, gives you more power, gives you more say over your own life, gives you more self-governance, makes you more of an entrepreneur, or makes you more independent, or makes you more anything, you're lying to yourself. And that's worse than lying to anybody else. I love there's a movie called The Town with Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Mark Wahlberg, Sheen, Jack Nicklaus. I'm sorry, not The Town. The Departed. Two movies, both about Boston. One of them, the two very different movies. But anyway, The Departed is a good movie. It's a great movie, actually. And Leonardo DiCaprio is attempting to become a Boston cop, a Stades policeman. And he goes through this process in the academy. And his family in Boston is kind of known for having been involved in organized crime. They were criminals, right? And as he's going through the police academy process, he finishes the process, and he finishes with high scores, and even on the IQ portion, they pull him from the academy, and they have a sit down with him. Sheen's dad and Charlie Sheen's dad and Mark Wahlberg, who are like the captain and sort of co-captain in this department. They pull him and they have this conversation with him. They go, what are you doing here? And he's like, I want to be a cop. What are you talking about? And Sheen tells him, we're the police, son. We deal in deception. What we don't deal in is self-deception. And what I can tell you is you're not a cop. You got a 1400 on your SAT. You're an astronaut. You're not a cop. And so they end up asking, really what they were doing in this part of the movie, if you're familiar with The Departed, is they're trying to draft him into the undercover program, which makes sense. And them asking him the question, and they end up asking him, they say, the question is, do you want to be a cop or do you want to appear to be a cop? And they go, some guys, they want to appear to be a cop, badge, gun, uniform, tough guy, they want to look like a cop. And then there's actual cop work. And what they were trying to say at the time in the city, in this story, that the guy who's Costello, who is kind of loosely figured after Whitey Bulger in some ways, people say, which is weird because Costello is not really an Irish name. It's more of an Italian name. But anyway, he's the big juice in the city at the time, and he's causing the most problems. And what they really need is to try and infiltrate his organization so they can bring him down. And what they were trying to convince Leonardo DiCaprio to do was go undercover into his organization, which he ended up doing successfully and ended up bringing Jack Nicklaus's character down, which was wild in the end because he ended up being an FBI informant at the end. Okay, so which Whitey Bulger was trading information with the FBI, with Connolly and those guys in real life as well. So, I mean, I don't mean to go off on a tangent about that. The whole point I'm saying with it is, the identity of people. The identity of people is so central to their ability to uphold morals and standards and values. And we kind of think, well, it's nothing worse than a liar. There's nothing worse than a person who lies to themselves. And if anybody out there still believes that the Democrats are doing anything for your well-being, you're only lying to yourself. And that's worse than anything you post on Facebook. That's worse than anything you post on Twitter, on X or Instagram. The worst thing you can be is a person who lies to themselves. Much worse than lying to anybody else. That's it for me. I'll be back on Wednesday night. Please make sure you tune in to the Royce White radio show on the John Fredericks Radio Network, which you can go and download the app and listen live. The show airs at 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. That's the John Fredericks Radio Network, the Royce White radio show. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, obviously here for Please Call Me Crazy, although we may add an extra episode in. We got the state convention this week here in Minnesota, so busy time. If you're in Minnesota, I'll see you at the convention. If you're a state delegate, I hope I get your support for the endorsement. It should be a special week. I can't wait to give a speech in front of the entire Republican conference here in the state of Minnesota on Saturday. And I'm actually missing my son's tournament on Saturday. My older son, Royce, I'm missing his tournament on Saturday down in Dallas, which I'm going to have to try and rush to and may, in fact, have to take a flight to, which I hate to do right now because I just hate flying right now. But I'm probably going to have to bite the bullet and do it. But I'm missing the first day of his Dallas National Tournament because I got to speak here at the Republican Party State Convention, which obviously supersedes his tournament. He'll have many more. Actually, will be in St. Louis the following weekend. So it's all good. But it's going to be a great weekend. It's going to be a great week. It's going to be a great weekend. I'm going to bring the truth. You may not like it, but I guarantee you this, nobody's telling me to say it, and it's what I really believe. And I'm open to having my mind change. I'm always open to sitting down and listening to people and having my mind change. But what I won't do is I won't kowtow and I won't say what somebody wants me to say because it's expedient. Because I'm not a politician. I'm not a politician. I don't need politics. Every one of us is involved. Every one of us has been drafted into American politics now. It's not a profession. It's not an industry. It's a way of life. Politics has now become a way of life. They forced it on you. They forced it on you because you gave over a good portion of your rights and citizenship and sovereignty to a government that didn't find it a matter of sacred honor to protect what you gave them, what you outsourced to them. We as American citizens, we as the American people, we gave our citizenship and rights and a certain level of what it meant to be American, that identity. We gave it to a third party, the government, the politicians, the corporations, where we buy stuff from. We gave them a piece of us, and now it's time to take it back. And in taking it back, I will not bite my tongue. I will not bite my tongue. God bless you. God bless America. I look forward to seeing you the rest of the week. Thank you again for being here this evening. We appreciate your viewership and listenership today and in the future. Thank you to the War Room, the great Steve Bannon, Maureen Bannon, Grace Chong for streaming the podcast. Please call me crazy every night. Don't forget, Saturday morning, Real America's Voice. I will be on air Saturday morning heading into the Republican convention. So tune in Saturday morning on your way into the convention. On Real America's Voice at 9 a.m. Eastern before Steve Bannon in the War Room. And it's a great honor. It's a great honor to be here. It's a great honor to represent you. It's a great honor to be able to have the chance to challenge Amy Klobuchar's seat here for the United States Senate and go into the United States Senate, go there to D.C. and finally represent you. Finally represent we the people. Finally be a real voice of the people. Amy Klobuchar is not a voice of the people. She's a voice of the establishment. And the most posh, decrepit part of the establishment, might I add. A particularly decrepit, posh, sort of unholy part of the establishment. The part of the establishment that draws on your willingness to like an Amy with a nice smile who never uses profanity. But she's going to sell you out every chance she gets. Thanks again for being here. I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. We'll do a little bit of video work there on Wednesday. I got a few clips I want to show. And make sure you tune in to Professor Penn, Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Central. That's it for me. God bless you. God bless America. Continue to pray for Donald Trump. I can't imagine how stressful it is to be caught in the crosshairs of these kangaroo witch hunt trials. And my good friend, Steve Bannon as well, got an unfavorable decision from the circuit appeal courts. Can't say we're surprised. Can't say I'm surprised. But we got some more appeals to go. And hopefully in the end, we won't let illegitimate judicial decisions stand in this country, because that undermines democracy, that undermines freedom, and that undermines America. The fight continues. As always, Godspeed.